Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today I'm with a guest who's about to perform at Capitol Hill Block Party. I heard about them through Vox Rhea back in April. I don't know if she knows or not, but she was supposed to be, or up and running to be on the Homegrown NAST show when Vox Rhea was in town. I think she ended up doing her own show with Vox Rhea a few days earlier, if I'm right. Maybe? Did you guys end up doing a show?
I was supposed to. I had like a little Pacific Northwest run, but I got COVID.
Oh, shoot. So We'll talk about their COVID. And besides that, she released her debut album last year on November 11th. If I'm right about that, which is a day after my birthday. So that's pretty amazing. Okay. Easy to remember that.
I was like, wow, you're good.
And before that, she was a touring pianist. I think I said that right. And so we'll talk about that as well. It's my pleasure to have on Puck.
Hi.
There we go. And I read an interview that Puck is short for Puckett. Am I right about that?
Yeah, my last name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I love the Shakespeare and folklore dovetail into that.
Oh, there's what do you mean by that? There's
So in Midsummer Night's Dream, there's a character Puck who is drawn from Irish folklore and mythology. So which is my heritage. So even though it's like a nickname for my last name, it's also I try to kind of like have a through line into that.
I like it.
Yeah.
And you're not into like hockey by any chance?
Well, now that we have the Kraken, I think we should, pay more attention.
Yeah. Puck can open for the hockey puck game.
That would be perfect.
They've been doing that a lot, actually. Like a lot of like local artists opening for the games.
That's right. Yeah. Enumclaw played.
Enumclaw.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know much about hockey. I went to a Kraken game like maybe in October.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just like bad luck or whatever, but I got like 2 flat tires on the way home. Oh. So I was like, I don't know if I want to go to another hockey game because I'm just going to associate with getting like having to spend like $1,000 the next morning to get tires.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, tires
are that expensive?
Yeah. And I didn't even buy like the top, like I should probably get new tires soon. But I got like the mid-tier tires. So they're only good for like, they might only be good for like 30,000 miles or something.
Okay, just to tide you over.
Yeah, but and you had to drop like 1,000. But tires are expensive because I've hopped 2, so that's a bitch. R.I.P. But we're not here to talk about tire problems. So, Puck, you're from Renton, Washington.
I'm from Renton, yeah.
One of my friends and guests as well as clients. So she's all 3. Monica Nevi, she's a comedian from Renton, and she jokes about like there's not much to promote about Renton, to be honest. But it's somewhere near, it's close to Seattle somewhat. So most people say Seattle, but some people say Renton. What was it like growing up in Renton?
Well, it's funny you say that because when I lived in New York, I would always say Seattle because no one would know Renton. But then around here, I have to say Renton because as soon as I say Seattle, I'll get vibed.
Yes. And they'll ask like what neighborhood and what street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Growing up in Renton, it was let's just put it this way. I would come into the city a lot on weekends as a teenager because there wouldn't be a lot happening in Renton.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, living in the suburbs, having that kind of like slow pace and not really being distracted, I did practice piano a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
And the Kent School District had some pretty great music programs at that time. So between jazz band and orchestra and music theory choir, etc.
That's awesome.
I was able to get a music education. I
went to Mercer Island High School, so like I experienced like their radio program and music program as well.
Whoa.
And I didn't realize, I don't know if this is true for every Boys and Girls Club, but my friend, he should be on the podcast sometime. His name is Miguel Rockwell. Okay. He's like a DJ in Seattle. And one of his jobs for like 9 years was he was a recording engineer / producer for a Boys and Girls Club at Mercer Island. So I guess some Boys and Girls Clubs have like whole studios in their buildings, which I never knew about.
Yeah.
But so there, I think what I think is cool. There is like, if you really, I think it's becoming more prominent where like you can just, how do I say this? Like when I was growing up, I didn't know you could be like a podcaster or get into radio. Like I didn't realize that until I was about to graduate high school.
Yeah.
But like there are programs if you look. So
there are. You know, like growing up here, having KXP and as well as like other independent like radio and like newspaper sorts of things, like The Stranger. It definitely made being a musician seem possible with so much like indie stuff.
Yeah.
But like, you know, finding the door and educating yourself to that door isn't always apparent.
Yeah, I think it's getting worked on a little bit, but
I think so. It seems like it.
Yeah, what is that thing where if they build it, you will come? Kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I definitely had to wonder where I would be if I had learned about that stuff early on. But it seemed like you learned like music pretty early on in life. I did clarinet, but I did it for 7 years too. But like I burned I talk about it enough that I should show the video, but like when I graduated high school, I burned my clarinet into like a bonfire, and I was like, I'm cutting my ties from being in a band. But it's I don't think I helped them, but it was like so I had like a wooden one, like a really nice one, and then it broke, so I had like a replacement just to hold on to. And the company was like a household. It was like literally in a house where they fixed clarinets.
Oh.
And they had called me 3 times and I didn't know, but they had left their, like they sold their house and sold their company within like a month of fixing my clarinet.
Whoa.
So I never got my original clarinet back, and I had this like shitty plastic one. So when I graduated high school, I burned the clarinet, but it was plastic and it was a very dark black fire. So I don't think that was good for the environment, but it helped me feel like my bonds of band was gone.
It was like very much in alignment with you being like and scene.
Yes, but I don't recommend burning instruments in general. You could maybe like sell that to someone. It's not good for the environment.
Or donate it to a school.
Or donate it. Yeah. You know, there's so many ways to go about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I could play a clarinet and still remember, but I don't know.
It's probably in there.
Yeah, like riding a bike.
Exactly.
But you started, like was it 6 when you started?
Damn, your memory's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're 6 when you started playing the piano, and what was that like? Was it like a forced thing, or did you want to do it, or what was that like?
I was just kind of like put in group lessons.
Okay.
I think, you know, my mom had music dreams, and so it was a little bit of like, hey, my kid might like this.
Yeah.
But I took to it, and it was a bit unconventional in the beginning. It was group piano lessons, as I said, so like 8 kids around like 8 electronic keyboards.
Dang.
And we would like do ensemble piano playing, and like sing and do percussion and like read music and do kind of like actually light music theory stuff.
Nice.
Which was kind of crazy for being like 6, 7, 8 and being like, oh yeah, the 4 chord, the 5 chord. So yeah, it was cool.
Dang, that feels like, I don't know if this is the right word. What is it? Cacophony, when there's like so much noise going on? Is that the right word? Was it like a cacophony with like all those different?
Oh yes. Especially with the percussion instruments.
That's amazing. Because like if you look back at like if you ever watch like kindergarten recorder recitals, it's like when you're a kindergarten, you think it's amazing because your teacher's like, this sounds amazing, kids, and it's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah. It's like everyone's out of tune enough that it all sums to the correct notes. Yeah.
So I can imagine that for a piano class at first, you know.
I think the actual keyboard playing was fine, but
That's
it was
good.
when the tambourines were handed out that's when it was like,
oh man.
So good.
That's amazing. Oh gosh.
Shout out to the parents that
yes.
were there.
There we go. And then what kept you into doing piano for so long?
So my mom said that I had to keep playing until 6th grade, and then I got to choose whether I wanted to quit or not. And also practicing became my allowance. So I would get a penny a minute for practicing.
Damn.
So I was making $2.50 a week, you know, back in 3rd grade. So that was especially considering inflation, that was pretty good money.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. I don't know if there's a real hierarchy to gas prices, but supposedly like Arco is not good, Safeway is not good, and they go to Chevron and Shell. There's supposed to be like better gas for your car. But like some people agree, some people disagree. But that's what I heard growing up. And right now I'm going to like Safeway gas because it's like down the street from my house it's like $4.40, which is still not that good at all. But then like the other day I was almost out of gas, so I had to stop by a Shell, and it was $6. And I was like, I'll take that Safeway bad gas over good gas for $6 a gallon. It's terrible.
Ugh. Do you have a Costco membership?
No, all my family does though. So I wonder if I can borrow my family members.
You might be able to, because the Costco gas, you know, I think it's not like you're entering and someone's checking your ID against your membership.
Right.
So you might be able to use that.
Is there a Costco in Seattle though?
I don't know. I only know Renton life. That's where I'm
living. So you grew up in Renton, went to school, and then stayed in New York, and then so you've only been in Renton and New York. That's those are crazy different places, right? Or
yes and no.
Okay.
You know, I feel like Renton is just a quick trip into Seattle, and in New York City, with all the different boroughs, you know, like Manhattan is definitely the really, really intense, crazy city center.
Yeah.
Living in Brooklyn or Queens, it can feel more Renton vibes.
Got it.
You can be a little bit more relaxed out there. In some spots. Other spots, it gets like busy, and Bushwick is, you know, definitely the party place.
100%. And did you have a car in New York, or you probably like learned like the whole transportation system?
Yeah, so I moved there when I was 18 to go to New York University, and I had only been driving for a year. Only had my license for a year at that point, and so all my adulthood has been pretty much by subway.
Nice.
And it's only, you know, in the last like year and a half coming back here and driving around, I'm like, oh, I understand how everything's like, you know, related to each other.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a teenager, it was like hopping in my friend's car or getting dropped off somewhere, and I could navigate by walking and by sight, but only now am I like, oh, I understand how to drive around.
There's still like crazy like one-way streets and stuff in Seattle, the downtown area. It sucks, and there's all this construction too.
I kind of love all of the cattywampus, like, you know, diagonal weird streets and hills. And
that's fair. I feel like for how weird it is, I don't see that many accidents in downtown. True. I see them all on like the freeway or whatever.
That's true. There's that exit right by the convention center, which is like notorious for.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, because you have to like know to slow down because you're immediately like in city traffic.
Yeah, but like sometimes it takes me. It's like a puzzle for me to like park at my studio downtown, because like it's like a one way to get. So there's like a parking garage.
Yeah.
And like I'm terrible at like I wish I can give you a better visual picture, but basically like, if you take the wrong turn, you have to do a whole like 5-minute roundabout through all these stoplights to get to this one road that goes down, because you can't go up. And it's annoying because the parking garage is at the bottom of this hill, but you couldn't just like sneakily go up a hill and run head on in traffic. It's a mess.
That's one thing that like moving back, I'm like, oh, this is a whole learning curve. Like today I was late because it was like, okay, we're stuck in unexpected traffic on the way from Renton, and I have to park.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in New York, getting off the subway, I just use my legs.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to factor that thing.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
Are you gonna take the train when I think it's the train that's being built. Are you gonna like take that when it's done? I think.
I don't know if it's going all the way down to Renton or where I am. I know they're expanding like north into the Everett area.
Maybe it's just north and wait. Renton's kind of south though, right?
Renton's is south, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going from Everett to Tukwila. So maybe it's coming through Renton.
I've driven to the park and ride like over near South Center, and I've done that before.
Yeah.
Like coming into games or just not wanting to like park downtown.
Yeah, it's a bitch.
Yeah.
So that's why it's nice to have like a studio. It's on like 2nd Avenue, so it's not the closest to everything, but it's like kind of in the middle. So like you can like lime scooter or at least get the free parking for having a space, you know.
Right.
But it's craziness. But so you've been in Seattle for, you said like over a year now?
Yeah, I moved back December 2021.
Got it.
And I've been kind of straddling Renton and New York, going back and forth.
Nice. And why back to Renton? Just to be with family or?
Yeah.
Okay.
My family's there. I'm back in my childhood home, which is like a total trip. It's like me throughout time waving at myself now.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm really exhausted by paying rent and doing that whole hamster wheel.
I bet.
And so living at home right now has allowed me to release my record, if I'm being really honest. It's allowed me to invest in myself musically rather than invest in a landlord's mortgage.
That is very fair to say. And I'm guessing like your family's probably happy to like have you back in town too, or that's nice.
Yeah, they are.
That's cool. And then so how many years have you spent in New York then? You probably feel like a New York native at this point too, a little bit. Yeah,
definitely not a New York native.
Okay,
but I'm cozy,
okay.
I don't want to claim that New York native status. That's a special thing. But I've lived in New York for 12 years. So I was there 18 through 30.
Damn.
All of my 20s were there. All of my kind of like formative adult years. So it's kind of like a huge sort of like, borderline between childhood and teenage years and Seattle-ish.
Yeah.
and then, all of my 20s and adulthood in New York. And now I'm somewhere in between.
Yeah. I feel like Seattle would suck though, coming back from New York, because like everything closes early. There's not that many events that are happening. It's pretty cliquey. I don't know. I went to New York for the first time last year, and I was so inspired, and I was up for like 24 hours when I first landed.
Oh.
Like I had to see and do everything, and so I feel like, do you like being back? Like besides family and all that, like you like Seattle, or?
I do. I love both very much, because like New York is the great human experiment where it's like people on top of people, concrete everywhere, barely any trees. But you really get to know us, humans, and kind of, what we're into, and the way we work and tick. Whereas here, I feel like, we kind of remember being on Earth. Like, you drive down I-5 and it's like, oh, the mountain is looking at me. So both are really important to me. Growing up here and being like a Pacific Northwest kid, and then like landing back, Seattle has been really welcoming and easy to kind of like, fit back into and find the things and the scenes that I had missed.
Cool.
But I could imagine that if someone was like moving here for the first time, how difficult it would be to find, the cool gems of the city.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So while doing like music in high school, did you make like artist connections at all, or has it been since you've been in New York you made like artist connections in Seattle, or how did that come to be?
I mean, definitely connections with like my friends, and now we've kind of like all grown up, and some people are like music adjacent.
Got it.
Or even just, going to shows at Numos or the Paramount growing up, coming to the city on weekends, knowing where to go and where to find different musical or arts things.
Yeah.
But I would say that now coming back, especially with like the resume I have and, the experience I have under my belt, it's been easy to make, new Seattle connections.
Got it.
Especially with, like I just met this guy, Andrew Imanaka, who is an amazing like touring musician. And I was, going to shows around here, or like, sitting on the internet in my room in Renton being like, where are the touring musicians? I know this, isn't a massive music industry city. It's definitely a music city, but in the way where there are like major labels here, like LA or New York or Nashville, I knew that like there wouldn't be, 200 touring musicians, but I was like, man, we gotta have like 5. Yeah. So last weekend when I performed at the Seattle Night Market at Denny Park, Soul was playing, and so I met his band.
That's great.
And Andrew Imanaka is his music director, and it was immediately like, oh, you grew up here, I grew up here, oh, you do this, I do that. And so like that sort of camaraderie of like understanding, where we grew up, the music scene that we love, wanting to build it more now and make it larger, and kind of like seeing eye to eye that like, oh, we have this skill set. that's kind of how I've been navigating the music scene coming back.
That's cool because he's like a staple in Seattle. So
Soul?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Damn. So why'd you choose New York University out of all schools? Is that like one of the better music programs or?
Yeah, I was looking to study jazz piano, and so it wound up being between Berkeley in Boston and NYU in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my high school band director at Kent Ridge High School, and
shout out Kent. I know Kent Ridge. Okay.
Oh, you know Kent Ridge? Yeah. Kent Ridge Chargers. What's up? Hi. So Mr. Baldock back in the day, and I asked him, should I go to Boston? Should I go to New York? And he's like, you'll get a great music education at Berkeley, but that's a small-ish city. It's an American city, whereas New York, yeah, it's an American city, but it's like international. It's massive. I think you'll have a lot of fun in New York, and see a lot of musical opportunity there. And he was right.
That's awesome. And how long were you in school for?
I went to NYU for 4 years, and then I stayed 8 years after that in New York full time.
Were you like in an apartment? Do you have roommates? What was that like?
Oh yeah, lots of apartments, lots of roommates.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what it's like here, but in New York, I definitely like moved around a lot. The city just kind of does that.
Is that good or bad? That sounds kind of like.
It's cool in a way because it exposes you to like lots of different neighborhoods. Sometimes you do feel a little bit packed in like sardines with 420 somethings in like the same space.
Yeah.
But it was great overall.
That's cool. Yeah. I like I said, I've only been to New York once, but I was super inspired to be there. Like, does the inspiration start to like wane after being there for so long, or is it still stay?
I think it's like any place where you get used to it, and the deeper you get into the city and how it works, and really like the economic structure of a city, the more you become I guess disenchanted with the New York. She loves to flirt with you right at the beginning, and she loves to like sprinkle you with that fairy dust and that magic to kind of like make everything work.
Yeah.
It is pretty exhausting to be in that cycle of always trying to pay rent. It's like as soon as you do, it feels like you have to do it again.
Yeah.
And I definitely put a lot of energy just into making that happen, at the sacrifice of playing music, really. But I don't know if that's unique to New York now. It seems like every metropolitan area around the U.S. is really going through that with our generation, where kind of like all of us are really struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah, I know my friends. My housing situation, which I've decided is best to like not talk about directly on the show, because like I do a lot of like, even for example, I'm definitely nowhere as big as my friend, but like my friend who's a comedian, on his podcast, the only thing he said, and he has a massive following, like he's been on twice, and like he's a touring comedian and
amazing,
dope, but like
from here.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
cool.
I guess no, he's from Michigan, but he's been here for like 20 years now or something like that. Actually, I don't want to date him. Maybe that's somewhere old. I think he's in his early 30s, so maybe not 20 years, maybe like 10, 15 years. Okay. Yeah, 20 years sounds.
Sorry, Joe.
But like he was super excited, and the only thing he said on his podcast was that he bought his house during like a holiday weekend, and that was enough for his fans to like figure out how many houses sold in Seattle on this holiday weekend, and they found his specific house and took a picture of his house and said, "Oh my gosh, we found your house." And like he didn't give any like specific information except that it was on a certain holiday weekend.
Shit's getting scary.
Yeah. And those are Seattle people, so some people don't realize that like you can have crazy Seattle fans too, or whatever. They're anywhere.
The crazy fans are anywhere, even in Seattle.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I feel like Seattle's, I don't know. I guess people can be obsessive anywhere. But like as like if you are in the music scene or whatever in Seattle, you realize it's kind of hard to build like a fan base. But to realize there is a fan base that can obsess over you in Seattle, it's pretty cool to at least
it's
know.
like a good and bad thing. Like, this is great because
Yeah.
of my career, but also this is creepy.
Yeah, for sure. So besides like my housing situation, like a lot of my friends who pay rent with each other, like they're like, I can spend $1,200 a month, and then you can spend $1,200 a month too, and you have like a small apartment, you know.
That's so much money.
So
the most I've ever spent on rent is $900, and that was to live with 2 other people.
Oh dang, yeah. Seattle's like, I think it's way more expensive for that, and that's even outside of Seattle. Some of my friends are like one of my friends lives in like I think Redmond, and they're still paying like $1,200 for. I think they have 3 or 4 roommates.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
If I'm paying that much, I want to live alone, which I know you can't live alone for $1,200, but like
you can make it work. I don't know. I've without giving too much. If you make like the right connections, you know, like there's like tons of like cool rich people that like want to support your art in Seattle, and that's something maybe that's everywhere, but like I've been given like super cool opportunities because I'm just like I've met the right people, and like I've had cool like housing opportunities or like trip opportunities.
I'm trying to find those people.
Yeah, you just gotta be like, yeah, you just gotta get out there, you know. Like I guess it's weird because I've only done like one podcast tour, and that's like solely like I had to spend a lot of money to do that on my own. But like I've gone on like comedy tours, and like you've toured, but like I've gone on like a lot of tours in Seattle just by meeting like the right person and like being open to like different types of art and stuff. So like there's ways like to just meet cool people and like have your lodging and food covered and get paid on top of it and get to meet cool people. So it's I think there's a lot of cool opportunities in Seattle. It's not just like how we said at the beginning where you have to kind of look for it. Yeah.
It's difficult to find or to know where to look, but then once you do, things start to kind of like, you know, connect.
Yeah, like I had to have I'm part of this program called Seattle Restored, and they're hooking me up, or hope we're supposed to be figuring it out. There's been like some delays, but I'm supposed to get my first like NAST podcast studio, because what happens here when I'm recording here or at downtown, other people will come in and I'll produce their podcast, but like they'll come in and use the exact same space, so then people will be like, is this a NAST podcast episode or is this someone else's? So like with other podcasts, they have their own background or whatever, you know? So, but like even being part of that program, I had to have a meeting with the, like the directors to even, because I didn't realize on their website, there's like all these like sponsorship opportunities. So sometimes it's like, it might be in front of your face, but sometimes it's hard to really know where to look.
I have to ask you about that off camera.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool opportunities and stuff in Seattle. You just really got to get out there, you know. But I want to talk about like your like experience touring, because first of all though, did you ever want to be like a performing act that was like a solo act, or was that like your first vision, or was it like, were you putting your dreams on the back burner to, even though you had like super cool opportunities, were you putting your dreams on the back burner to tour with other artists, or did you want to be touring with other artists, or what was your mindset at first for all that?
I think I always wanted both.
Okay.
Because growing up playing piano and then being exposed to jazz, like artists like Herbie Hancock, where it's like, you know,
Watermelon Man.
Yes, where he's like a sideman for Miles Davis, but then he eventually like also had his own project, and so that always intrigued me. And then like my freshman year of college, Thundercat released his first album, and so that was really grounding, because, you know, when I was in school, I was like, am I setting myself up for failure? Like, I don't know if I really want to do like a straight ahead jazz career. Like, I grew up on PNW indie rock and, you know, like post grunge stuff, so that was also always in my heart, like having a band and kind of veering away from the jazz sound. But then, you know, it's not like I'm super fluent at guitar. I'm a pianist, and so the virtuosity of being a pianist, it's kind of like, you know, jazz is that bar, and being fluent there is something that, like, I mean, that's still like a pursuit. I think that's probably a lifelong pursuit for me. But having Thundercat in school, it was like, oh shit, like he's writing songs that are catchy that people are singing, and these are kids that like aren't jazz heads that are coming to the show. They're like, oh, this cool like new guy, interesting, you know, electronic productions coming out of like Brain Feeder and Warp
Wait, what
Records.
does neo soul mean again? Like, what does neo mean? I know what neo soul is, but what does neo mean? Actually,
I think neo just means new, like
new
in
soul
its
music?
in a prefix. Yeah,
But you can't be like neo country, or could you?
You could probably be neo country.
But then I feel like neo is almost like has to do like experimental or something, maybe, or maybe it's not. Maybe it does just mean new. I don't know.
I feel like that implies experimental.
New.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like neo. It's like,
Got it.
you know, this isn't gonna be. It's not gonna be Patsy Cline country. It's gonna be.
Like Old Town Road.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we both said the same thing.
Amazing. But so I feel like Thundercat is kind of like neo, but he plays instruments too, right?
Yeah, he's mainly a bass player. So he was playing bass for Erica. Speaking of neo soul, he was in Erica's band. He played with Suicidal Tendencies as like, you know, a
Suicidal
bass player.
Tendencies.
Yes. As
like the 80s.
Yes.
What?
Out of LA. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like punk. Like he was like a bass player for hire. He comes from like a this is now the Thundercat podcast, the Thundercat fan podcast.
Yes.
He comes from an LA family of musicians.
Got it.
He's kind of like music nobility in there. So his dad played drums for the Temptations.
Wow.
And so his big brother Ronald Bruner plays drums as well, plays with like Shaka Khan and a bunch of other artists. So in addition to Thundercat being this touring musician, he became friends with Flying Lotus and played all on his records.
Yeah.
He became a studio musician for Kendrick Lamar, and then he had his own like solo career.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like that modern Herbie Hancock type.
Yeah, for sure. He's dope as fuck.
So yeah, he's like my favorite.
Yeah.
Like Thundercat and Joni Mitchell are like my two favorites.
Hell yeah. How did I not know he was signed to Brain Feeder? Do you know who ZZ Gibson is by any chance?
No, who is that?
He's like a hip hop artist that was signed. He got his start being signed to Brain Feeder.
Oh, cool.
He was like one of the first artists I ever like fanboyed out over and like listened to all their music. And then like I've had them on the show like twice now.
Whoa, how was that?
Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah.
It was super cool.
Were you like holding in the fanboy?
Yeah. I mean, no, actually it helped because I did fanboy because some of the stuff I was so excited that I forgot to ask some of my questions, but like I was able to fanboy because at that point you want to get into the nitty gritty with someone that's about their life, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I had them on virtually, and then I also, when I did my LA tour, I had him on in person. So
cool.
Yeah. He's a cool dude. But yeah, Brain Feeder's cool. Flying Lotus and all those guys are like so cool.
Yeah. It's
cool
like a really cool scene collective of musicians.
100%. So yeah, Thundercat. Dope too. Yeah, hell yeah. So you got into Thundercat, and that kind of inspired you to, but you didn't. It was like how much of it was luck versus like preparation that you became like a touring act, like that Thundercat made it maybe have like put that into your head, but like were you reaching out to find like places to tour, or did that kind of just happenstance?
Yes. I was definitely practicing and preparing and trying to be like a good pianist or whatever, reaching for perfection. But then I found like the jam sessions in New York, and I started like skipping class a little bit more and like going to jam sessions late at night. And from that, I found like the music scene in the community, and through that started getting more gigs. You know, it would be a jazz gig, like a small thing, or like a restaurant duo, or a local singer-songwriter. And through that and just like playing around, I eventually met the right people who there was one person who I got a tour in Europe, like a jazz tour in Europe.
That's awesome.
And couldn't make a SZA gig in New Orleans, and so he asked me to sub. And little did I know at that time, SZA was starting to grow. She had just dropped Z, so
that's like the first album I heard by her too.
Yeah.
What's my favorite song on that? I guess you've listened to like all her music at this point. You've had
yeah.
to.
Yeah. Although the new album, I haven't like it's not in there
it.
as well as the previous ones because I'm not like playing it.
It was too like I don't know. Sometimes when something's too big, I need to like wait. Sometimes up to a couple of years before I check out an album.
Same way.
So I haven't even checked out. Obviously, I know Kill Bill because everyone does. Yeah. But like I haven't listened to the rest of her album.
Is that a Seattle kid thing?
I don't know. Maybe it is.
Like I'm not gonna be into the popular thing.
I don't know because
I'm indie.
Seattle's very like I don't know. Seattle, I feel like I guess there are a lot of people that are like super like what's the right word? They're into like being themselves and like or whatever. But like I feel like there's a lot of people in Seattle that aren't really musically knowledgeable as I would expect.
Is that Neo Seattle?
Or yeah, maybe it's New Seattle. Maybe it's it's New Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really it's that's another reason why I started my podcast because I feel like I couldn't really connect with anyone that was like a nerd about music.
Okay.
And like I've been a nerd about music since I was like 10.
Yeah.
So like
it's hard not to be here.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
But
although it is hard to find the local scene when you don't know where to look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. It definitely, and there's like also like very niche people like groups in cities that think they're like which maybe they are, but like that think they're in the music scene, but they're in their own little music scene versus so I don't know. I feel like the music scene is like people who are able to like tour in Seattle really, in my opinion. Even if it's like coffee shops or whatever, but like there's people who like tour in like Everett and they just play like Black Lab all the time. Mm-hmm. Or there might be like I don't know if there's any venues in like Renton or whatever. I have a paper cut. Wow.
All right.
Yeah, I just felt it. But yeah. Yeah, it's weird. There's multiple music scenes, but there's also like always going to be like the main Seattle music scene, I feel like. But
what to you is the main Seattle music scene?
I don't know. I think it's the main Seattle music scene is probably still like the people that are in their like 30s that have been like building the music scene since like the early 2010s, and that's still what I think the music scene is. And then there's like younger people that join that because then you get to like perform at like Numos or like Barboza or whatever. But then there's a huge scene of people who are just like bedroom pop artists
I've noticed that
who haven't ever really performed. Or they're not really they don't really know how to perform, but they know how to like get streams. Yeah. So there's like two generations kind of happening in Seattle at the same time.
Yeah, there's like a dichotomy between like people that are playing live shows and like, hitting the ground all the time and then people that are like digitally present.
Yeah, like soul is probably part of the main music scene, I'd say. I don't know, I wouldn't say every artist knows soul, but if you've been in the music scene long enough, you definitely know who soul is. So like that's like definitely like I would say like a pivotal figure in the music scene. Or like still Macklemore. Some people like shit on Macklemore, but like I opened up for Macklemore as a DJ with my friend Saint Dion like 3 months ago. So I'd say that I'd say that's still like music. That's very music scene-esque type thing to do, to like open up for like prominent figures in Seattle. I think that's still important.
Definitely.
But back to the SZA thing. My favorite song. Fuck. How do I not know the name of the song now? The one with Chance the Rapper.
Child's Play.
Child's Play. Yeah, and that's a sample from this group called XXYXX. Yeah. See, I'm a huge like I love sampling and all that stuff. Yes, yeah. And then that's like my favorite Chance the Rapper verse too, because he sounds very like, is he trying to sound New York in that when he's like,
I don't know.
He has that weird accent that he puts on.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. Or maybe that's not New York. That's just 50s sounding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it sounds like the
crowd surfing the Cypher
guy.
Yeah. But that's probably... And so I had, like, that's when I think Chance the Rapper had came out. He was out by then for a while. Like, he had that one, his first album, what's it called? Acid
Rap.
That had been out for a couple years. I could be wrong. But I think he dropped before SZA did. So I was already on like a Chance the Rapper kick.
Yeah.
And then when SZA came out the song with him, that's how I discovered like SZA.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is weird. I feel like most people, I don't know if people would discover SZA from Chance the Rapper or not usually, but
I there's a large crowd that did.
Yeah.
Especially in that era. I mean, this is still happening, but maybe like 10 years ago, it was like, oh, to blow, I need to get a feature. And I need the feature to be bigger than me.
Yeah.
And I feel like features definitely happen, but it seems like it's cooled down, or the industry is doing something different in order to get people to blow. I mean, it's TikTok era now. So.
Yeah. And I don't know how I feel about like certain features, because also everyone's like influence or pull is like what's the right word? I don't think over exaggerated is the right. Maybe it's like it's overinflated. Like you think someone might have a bigger pull than they do because of like their streaming numbers, but also there's a lot of advertising that goes into that. So like you might get I don't know, I want to say like a B-list artist who might be doing really well on their own, but just because you get a feature from them, that doesn't mean that they're gonna put the same advertising budget into it. So like I've known a lot of like local artists who get like a big feature, but then nothing, and it might be like a genuine connection feature too, but nothing comes of it really because it's not the same advertising budget. Right. So I don't know what, unless you're like Drake, I don't really know what type of people really can, unless you're really, I think at this point it's more about like connections and like really building like a long-term thing. But like maybe if you're like in the early 2000s and you got like a Lil Wayne feature on a mixtape, that would have a bigger impact. But like there's a lot of artists who get Lil Wayne features now. Right. And like Lil Wayne is someone who like can spit a feature out in like 10 minutes. Because I don't know if you've watched, I don't know if you're a big hip hop person at all, but like Lil Wayne, like he like doesn't memorize any of his lyrics, and half of his music is freestyled, you know?
Didn't he just do that interview that's like, I don't know, my like first 3 albums?
Yeah. Yeah. Like does he have dementia or what's going on? Or does he just not genuinely, I don't know. Yeah. But like, so Lil Wayne obviously is like an exaggerated example, but like Lil Wayne, and it's happened, there's a chance that if Lil Wayne does a feature for you, he might not even remember doing that feature for you, and he's definitely not going to promote it. And then that could just end up on SoundCloud, and like you can say you had a Lil Wayne feature, but like if he hasn't done anything to help promote it, even a Lil Wayne might not even get you anywhere.
Well, yeah, I feel like the way that's structured economically in the industry, getting a feature, you're usually paying a flat fee to that artist, unless there's like a genuine like, oh, I like you, like let's connect, let's like work on some music. But you're like really hitting the nail on the head about the difference between like business driven music and culture driven music. And I feel like business tries to drive culture and has some success because they have the money, but ultimately it doesn't really have a lot of staying power the way culture driven music industry does. And that was something that, you know, from touring, I kind of found out about that, like, you know, a lot of these features, it's really just like a paycheck and a flat fee. It's like, oh, we can get this artist to do this verse for a flat fee, and that's going to, you know, help them economically. Maybe it's going to fund their music video for their next project. But, you know, beyond that, like, you know, sign, yes, I'll do this feature, and yes, you pay me this thing. Yeah. They often won't promote it because it's just their presence is supposed to be like the promotion.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So like what's it like, and I want to like maybe have you like break down like the stigma of like you're like a touring artist, but like you still have to like, you know, like save money, come back to Seattle, or whatever you have to do, or like you're saying rent's super expensive. So what are like the stereotypes of like maybe just a normal fan or an up and coming artist might assume if you're a touring artist?
I would like go back to work at coffee shops after tours, and like, you know, a coworker like wouldn't believe me. Like I heard her saying like behind my back, like, oh, no, I don't believe that she played with SZA if she's like working here. And it's like, you know, just because you play Coachella or play the Grammys and have that like visibility doesn't mean that like you're financially secure forever. So and especially with the pandemic, you know, I feel like I was almost to a place where I could, you know, be financially secure off of touring and kind of like in that cycle of getting gigs. And then the pandemic hit and it was like, oh, let's go work in some coffee.
For sure.
What are you wondering exactly about that? Are you asking
like what is your advice for like someone who thinks like even for me, and I've brought this up a lot on podcasts as well, is like I recently became like a wedding DJ.
Yep.
I'm a regular DJ.
Yep.
I'm a podcast producer, studio manager, podcaster.
Yep.
I do contracted work for Dick's Drive-In.
Cool.
I do social media management.
Holy shit.
I go on tour with comedians.
You have 8 small businesses.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But I make sure like it all like fits into each other.
Yeah.
So like today I was able to like, I had a client for 2 hours. I have a 3-day membership to the Y, and there's a Y down the street. And then I came back here, did some editing, and now we're doing a thing. So I'm able to definitely like make my own schedule. And then like on the weekends I'm doing weddings or whatever.
Yes.
Right. But like I think most people assume if you're on a tour, unless you're like a super local band that's like in a local band in a van going across the country, then people like understand like you're just trying to break even to get exposure.
Yes.
But like if you're a touring act with like SZA or Maggie Rogers or whatever, I think people would assume that you're able to solely just make an income off that. But like even like and I use this example too, like even if you're like Johnny Depp, right? Johnny Depp is an actor. Obviously he's making fucking millions of dollars.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah. But like Johnny Depp's like in a band, he's an actor, he's in like perfume commercials. Like no matter who you are, like there's so many different types of like people in media that still have like multiple incomes.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely. It's really important to me to talk about the numbers candidly while keeping people's like identity and business. Like I want to respect, you know, the people that I've worked for.
Yeah.
So let me see how I can do this. When you're touring, everything's fine, you know. And if you go on a long enough tour, you can make enough money to survive through the year as long as you're smart with budgeting. Last year, I made $30,000 from touring, and that was something that allowed me to survive throughout the year. Granted, I had moved home with my parents to save money on rent, and also I took some of that money in order to and put it towards my album release. So when you're touring, that's fine. Tours, you know, it may look like, you know, an artist is always on tour, but oftentimes if you release an album, if you're a large enough artist, first of all, then you might tour for 2 months on a national tour, US and Canada. If you are big enough beyond that, then maybe you have a draw in Europe and you go on a European tour. If you're larger, even more so, then maybe there's budget to get you over to Australia, New Zealand, and like Japan and Korea. So it's really about, first of all, the largeness of the artists that you're playing for and their economic backing too, because there are some really large artists out here that are still on indie labels. And might have deals with majors, but their money is going to look a lot different. Their budgets for their teams are going to look a lot different than an artist that is like completely major label. But with that being said, you know, being an instrumentalist, I always had to juggle between like a day job and touring, especially during, for example, SZA's rise. You know, I started in the band in 2014 and Control wasn't released until 2017. So while we had, you know, I would be touring during festival season on spot dates, kind of like a weekend warrior. I would be at the coffee shop during the week and then fly out and hit, 3 dates, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and come back. It still wasn't enough for me to like cover all of my living expenses. It wasn't until, there was a demand for me as a keyboardist to do a national tour. And that national tour wasn't really available until Control came out, and, everybody everywhere was losing their minds and buying tickets.
Yeah.
I guess I want to just, other than touring, I just want to talk about quickly other ways to make money in the music industry, because a lot of people like really don't know how. Of course, there's royalties from like streaming and radio, and everyone's kind of like maybe heard about, the fractions of a penny you make, unless you're like Taylor Swift or that level. There's music syncs. So that's like if you are get your song, like let's say a State Farm agency wants to use your song in one of their commercials, they're going to pay you a fee for that, which might be like, a few $1,000, and then some perhaps royalties on top. So that's, streaming radio royalties, and then syncs. Additionally, maybe I'm getting so maybe that's with, for like Puck, for like my stuff. Maybe also, another stream of revenue I have as myself would be like playing piano on someone's record, which is going to be slightly different than songwriting for someone. In terms of the way that intellectual property is structured. This might be a one-time studio fee, or maybe a fraction of royalties. This might be like larger royalties, because I developed the song with the artist.
And that's where like points get involved.
Yes, exactly. And then of course there's live, where it's like, you're touring. And that can be, like a day rate or a weekly rate. And I think of that it's a gig economy, right? So it's a little bit more of more similar to like an hourly job, where it's like you're clocking in and you're getting pay from clocking in and doing that work. There's no like, guaranteed salary over time.
Got it.
And then what was the other thing? I just had it on my mind. And then from that touring world, you kind of get into like TV and stuff, which gets really interesting. I just got a check from NBC because I performed with Maggie Rogers last year on Jimmy Fallon. And because of the writer's strike, they don't have any new material, so they're doing reruns.
Oh, damn.
So the royalties I got from that rerun, just for, transparency for anyone who's curious, it was $35. So it wasn't a whole lot. It definitely paid for, all the parking I've been doing lately. Yeah. So it was a little helpful, but the numbers for me are not the numbers, for the persons whose name is on the marquee. As a pianist. And I've played Jimmy Fallon 3 times now with SZA and Maggie, and I'm trying to remember. The payout is from NBC, not from Maggie or SZA, first of all, so I'm not like blowing up their spot. Yeah. And it's a union rate, because it is NBC and it's, TV and music at that level is very unionized. So I think the first time, whenever you play an episode, like as it's airing, the first rate you get is around like $600 for doing that. And then it usually airs kind of immediately, like a couple weeks later or so, and that payout I want to say is like 100-ish, maybe a little bit more, and then I just found out that the rerun is $35.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's craziness.
Yeah.
And then I guess like if you're in a touring band, you're not really making like merch unless you're a solo act, because
No.
I don't think like someone wants to buy the pianist's like shirt unless they're also like Thundercat or a solo act, you know?
Yeah, and that would be kind of like maybe like a faux pas etiquette wise of me being like, "Hey SZA, will you sell my Puck merch?" Like, no. I never, even though I love her very much and that's like my real friend, I wouldn't ask her. I wouldn't like mix business in that way. Yeah, but that does bring up a good point. Like the ideal situation for me, oh my God, someone hire me. The ideal situation for me would be to play to be someone's touring pianist as the main act and open for them as Puck. Because I would get paid as a touring pianist and then also be able to sell Puck merch. I would get the artist fee for the opening act. It would be an economically sound situation. It would also help me spread, you know, Puck around and build that business up.
And what's it like, how often is someone able, if they're like a touring instrumentalist, how often are you able to like build a relationship with the main act versus having to realize sometimes it is just like a job?
It's definitely going to be different than working in a corporate office, you know, because at the end of the day, you're traveling together, you're living together, you're going through things together, and you ultimately can't really hide that. You know, you can have a phone conversation in private, but if you're going through a breakup while you're on tour, it's like, you know, everyone else is going to kind of like be able to tell.
For sure.
So there's like an intimacy that's there that you ultimately can't run away from. But that is something I've learned over time, that like, you know, some artists are really just kind of like your boss. And trying to figure out how to navigate that like strange business, not quite friend but friendly space, has definitely been a learning curve. SZA was a unique situation for me because I came into that band when I was 23 and she was also like, you know, I think she's a year older than me or so, but you know, 23-year-olds aren't really like fully formed. I wasn't, at least. So there was definitely, you know, growing up and like living through our 20s together, and man, like a shout out to President Punch for like putting up with me as a 23-year-old, and like gracefully like always giving me chances and room to grow. But I've come to realize that, you know, like being in that situation 23 through 29 was like very, very special and very unique and very formative, and allowed me to grow musically, business-wise, and personally, for sure, in a way that like playing for other folks has been more like, all right, you're here, you know, we're playing Coachella, let's do it, let's you know, like just show up, be ready to go. Almost how I would imagine it would be if you're like suddenly hired by a big corporation at like, you know, a mid-level position, and you know, at like 30, I would imagine that it would be like, hi, okay, come to work.
So. And then how much is it like your name being on a list versus you have to like, even though you perform with Maggie, and is it Maggie or do you just say Maggie weird, or how do you?
Oh, Maggie Rogers.
What do you say?
That's my Seattle accent.
So you say Maggie?
Maggie, yeah. I think it's Maggie.
Maggie. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. Like
I
bag
say
and mag or what?
Bag.
Okay. Got it.
How come you don't say it that way? You're from here.
I don't know.
Okay. Cool.
I don't. Is both your family member, like your family, is both your dad and mom from Seattle?
My mom is. My dad's from Oklahoma, so he but he's been here. He moved here when he was 22, so his accent is kind of faded, but he still says howdy. And he still says like Wednesday and Saturday.
Nice. I think, well, my mom's from North Seattle and my dad's from the South. But I don't know. Maybe
South Seattle or the
like
South?
like wait, North Carolina?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which is still the South.
Does he say howdy?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I know my grandpa's from Seattle and he says yellow instead of hello.
Yellow.
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 But so, I don't know. That is weird. I probably do have a Seattle accent. I don't know.
You probably do.
I don't know. There's that video that came out a few years ago where there's like some girl like made every accent, and Seattle has an accent. I forget what it is though.
Beg.
Dragon. How do you say beg? Is beg and beg the same?
Beg.
Which one are you saying?
Both.
Okay. Amazing.
It's funny that you picked up on that because I got made fun of that in New York a lot. People would be like, "Excuse me."
I just want to make sure I'm not saying it wrong now.
No, I think you're saying how the rest of the country says it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's like the Canadian A that comes down because I noticed like some upstate New Yorkers or like some people from like Minnesota that were in New York would say the A.
Like the Fargo.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah. Don't you know?
Don't you know? So, but with Maggie or Maggie, whichever, Rogers and SZA, after those, working with them, how much is it of your name? Because you said on an interview I read, she reached out to you, Maggie or Maggie, whichever. And but like, how much of it is you being on a list that people can look for, like touring pianists, versus like you having to make those connections continuously?
It's all connections. There's no list. I wish there was. I wish there was a Google Doc with my name at the top. So that happened actually through coffee.
Okay.
Polly Lovejoy was hired to be the music director for Maggie.
Yes, one of them. Mrs. Rogers. Miss Rogers.
For Ms. Rogers.
Yes.
When she was getting the new band together for the new album Surrender.
Got it.
And he's the music director for Harry Styles currently, and was the music director for FKA Twigs in the past. So he's amazing. He's an amazing just human, but also like a really incredible leader and music director. And I was working at my favorite coffee job that I worked at. It was called Covert Coffee.
Wait, have you ever worked at like Starbucks?
Hell no.
Okay.
I was sellouts.
Good to know.
No, the most corporate coffee thing I've done is La Colombe, which is out of Philly, but they have New York and LA locations.
Got it. Okay.
I don't know why I'm plugging them right now.
Shout out them.
Shout out. No, but really shout out Covert, because that was a really, it was an indie coffee shop.
Okay.
And it was a really beautiful community that we made. But Polly was in New York in town on a gig. He's from London. And he was doing some work at the coffee shop. And I think I made him a flat white or something along those lines.
Amazing.
And I saw that he had a MIDI keyboard on his desk, on the table, and I was like, "Oh, are you a musician?" And he's like, "Yeah, music direct for FKA Twigs." I was like, "Whoa, cool." And I was like, "That's awesome. I play keys for SZA," and it was prior to Control coming out, but she definitely was percolating, and he knew who she was.
I get percolating because of coffee.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
But we exchanged numbers, and this was like, when would that have been? That must have been like 2016, 2015 that I was working there. And unbeknownst to me, as SZA blew up, and we would be at the same festival as Twigs, he would watch our set and he would see me playing, knowing that I was the barista.
That's amazing.
And so it was years later. It was like 5 years later that I got an email out of the blue. I actually had just moved back here. It was January 2022. I moved back December 2021. And I had kind of like flunked out of New York. I was between apartments. I had been fired from a weed delivery job.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I was
cool.
like,
how do you get fired from a delivery?
Thank you. Apparently I was too slow at delivering.
Dang.
I was
maybe you're
probably
too high.
Stoned. Yeah.
There we go. Exactly.
I was probably stoned, and I was also doing my barista thing / mental health care during the pandemic of like, oh, what's been going on with you? Like, tell me about your anxiety. Yeah. Oh, this strain will be great for you. And I was just like taking too long hitting these deliveries. So They fired me, which
no.
I've decided I'm epic for that rather than a loser for it.
100%.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I flunked out of New York. Basically, I was exhausted from doing the hamster wheel rat race thing, and moved back here. I had spent my last $50 on weed.
There we go. Was it nice weed or for $50? That's not too. That could be a lot, or that could be like very bad weed. It depends.
Here's the key: switching to edibles has been key because I can buy 1/8 and then make cookies off of that, and then have that for the whole month. Versus like 1/8 smoking wise would probably last me like a week.
Like what type of cookies are you making?
Chocolate chip.
Okay.
Yeah, like the Toll House recipe.
Yeah. I guess you can make any of the. You can make can you make like oatmeal raisin edible cookie? I think you can make any type of cookie.
Oh yeah, any type of cookie. Because you just make the butter.
Yeah. Like what's the weird, or like what about like edible pancakes?
Ooh.
I wonder if that would. You'd have them. Yeah, I guess you could do that.
100%. You probably get really high.
Yeah.
Making a batch of pancakes with that butter.
One of my friends was making. I wonder. I don't know why they stopped. So I'm not going to say their name or the. Yeah, but they made like edible ice cream for a while, and that was really good.
Yeah, that would work because you just need to infuse the cream.
Yeah, but you have to be careful like how much, because you end up wanting to eat the whole tub.
Delicious. And then you're like,
damn, that was the best. I wonder if they don't. It was like independent, so I don't know what happened with that. I hope you can buy edible ice cream somewhere else though. That would be edible ice cream's pretty dope.
It would be easy enough to infuse yourself.
Yeah.
If you're, do you like to chef it up?
I'm working on baking and cooking. I'm all right. I'm not terrible. I think I've been cooking a lot lately because I've been going out too much. So I've been cooking, and I'm all right. I can make steak now.
Whoa, and that's kind of hard, right? I'm a vegetarian, so I don't know how to do that.
I think making steak, you can get complicated, but you can make it as easy as like, I cook steak like I would bake cookies, I guess, like where everything is very precise with timing.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know how to feel out a steak. So like I randomly decide, I somewhat figure out how thick a steak is, and then the minute or seconds relates to like how thick it is. But like sometimes I'm too low or too high on the amount of minutes. So
and what happens then?
Sometimes it's too raw, and then I don't think you really. Sometimes you can put certain foods back into the cooker or whatever, but like I don't think.
Can you finish it in the oven?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then sometimes I've overcooked steak.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm like I wouldn't tell someone to come over and have me make them a steak, but like I can make somewhat edible.
It's a mistake.
Yes, sometimes. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you want to know how to make edibles? Should I put them on?
You could.
Okay.
I personally, a lot of my guests and fans smoke and drink and whatever, but I only smoke or anything like that on occasion. Well, I drink, but like on occasion, because I get too paranoid now for whatever reason.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I told a story on the Gifted Gab interview I'm editing. Oh, it's weird because it's out. I haven't made the promo for that.
Okay.
It's weird, like making promo videos. Everything takes. I do like 3 to 5 interviews a week, guys. So like it takes.
Holy shit! Yeah, that's a lot.
It takes time. But like I was telling her on the episode that like I had to like leave an island on a ferry because I got too high and nervous. So how
was that ferry ride?
Relieving, because I wasn't around people anymore.
Oh yeah.
It was like I DJ'd at an event, and there was like an after party, and I smoked, and I was like, this is not it.
Okay.
So I took a ferry at like 3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, that sounds like weirdly relaxing.
Yeah, it was all right. So, but I don't know. I feel like edibles and smoking is kind of the same effect for me.
Okay.
Except smoking is like bam, versus edibles is sometimes it's like slower.
Yeah.
So that makes it like less stressful versus being bam, oh shit, I'm high, versus like I'm high.
Right. Am I? I am.
Yeah. So that's the only difference. But like you're a chef with edible stuff then?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I used to smoke. I'm definitely kind of a perma-stoner. I'm not stoned right now, surprisingly.
Perma-stoner means you're always high?
Yeah, for a long time I have been, yeah.
But you're like, that's because you smoke. It's not that you got too high and now you're stuck being high.
No, it's good. Yes.
Okay, because if you're I think that means that you're.
No, I have done it to myself every day for the past like 6 years.
Okay. Because if you're like, you might want to see a doctor if you're like, just, like I watch a lot of Vice documentaries and like there's a lot of like you watch Vice ever?
Yeah.
So like I think they just went bankrupt though. Yeah.
They did.
R.I.P.
I don't know if that's like public.
I think it is, right?
It is? Okay.
I saw it on. Wait, do you know like a Connect at Vice?
I do.
Oh shit! No, I just saw like a news article about it. But like one of my favorite Vice documentaries was this guy in London like had a bottle of like GHB that he was trying to sell people.
What is that?
I don't even know. I guess it's like
a neo drug.
It's a neo drug. I think it's something similar to like, I could be completely wrong, but from my understanding or not my understanding, it's like it's almost like Molly and PCP.
Oh my god!
it's like a crazy mixture.
Okay.
And like I think you can drink it like Molly water or something, you know. Oh. So like he had this whole bottle of GHB, and he was trying to sell it at like a rave, but it was like an indoor rave. Okay. So like it was dark and he couldn't see, but someone like bumped him, and the whole entire container, like the lid was off for whatever reason, poured onto him, and it like went into his skin, like because your skin's like a whatever, it's porous. Yeah. So now he's like permanently like he's perma-fried. So like he's like
stuck.
Yeah, he's like sees static everywhere and like hears voices and crazy shit. But he was able to do like a Vice interview, so he's not crazy. He's just permanently like, you know, tripping. But then I don't know. I guess like how tripping are you to do like an interview? Because I feel like you can't really. There's people that interview like homeless people and all that.
Yeah.
But like he seemed like he had his shit together. He just was like, well, I guess I'm permanently tripping, but I don't know if he should drive either like that. So I don't know how much it affected his. I don't remember that. I just remember that he's permanently tripping. So when you said you're perma-stoned, I was like, oh shit, like that GHB incident?
No, not the GHB incident. Okay. Like I have consensually dosed myself.
But you eat edibles more than smoke.
Yes. I found that smoking was dehydrating me a lot.
And it gives you cancer.
That's true.
Yeah, it's carcinogenic.
That's
carcinogenic.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't want cancer. Is there any wood in here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't work. This is not real wood.
This is plastic.
Yeah, shit.
Is this real wood?
Maybe. Oh, the side of the sound thing. There.
Okay, there we go.
Cool.
I've dosed myself. I found that smoking was dehydrating me.
Okay.
And a carcinogen.
Yes.
And it's expensive. I was, literally blowing through a lot of weed. So I made the switch to edibles, which was difficult, to be honest, because there's the relaxing, like the ritual of rolling up and like taking the break and going outside, and like this thing for some reason is so relaxing.
Yeah, that's what people get that with cigarettes and vape and all that.
Yeah, there's like the chemical thing with whatever you are smoking, but then there's like this thing.
Yeah.
So converted over to edibles, and I like it because with smoking's handy because you know how high you're gonna get. It's like, oh, I'm here, you know, and then it dissipates.
Yeah.
But with the respiratory system, it's about like, 2 hours, and then you roll up again. So I found that like smoking all day, I would get really exhausted by the end of the day because it would be up, down, up, down. Up, down.
Yeah, I bet.
Whereas with edibles, I'll dose myself either like once or twice a day, in the morning and then in the evening.
Yeah.
And it's like a meal, the digestive system, it takes about 6 hours or so to move through your body. So you're coming up, you hit the apex and then come down. So the trick is dosing yourself to hit that apex rather than dosing yourself to be high here and then be like, whoa.
Yeah.
But to make your own edibles, you can infuse butter or coconut oil. You need a fat because the THC bonds to the fat.
What happens if you don't use that?
I don't know. I don't know if the THC will bond correctly. But also, too, you need... weed needs heat because in its form, you're getting delivery service puck right now. This is why they fired me, because I would explain this shit each time.
Amazing.
So in its, like floral raw state, it's THC-C is or dash A. It's bonded to another molecule, or like the molecule is more complex.
Got it.
And so this other portion, when you ignite it, that breaks off from the heat from the fire, and then the THC is what our brains can actually absorb. It has like a little puzzle piece to receive that cannabinoid without the dash attached. So it needs to be exposed to heat, and it needs a fat to bond to in order to be carried into your body.
But people can still get high from just eating like a whole bunch of like nugs, or no?
I don't think so. Can they?
I thought if you eat enough, I thought it took longer. But
that would be really unpleasant to eat.
Yeah,
that many nugs.
What if you like dip it in chocolate and then like they're like the chocolate covered nugs? Yeah.
Weed fondue.
Yeah. That'd be amazing. Oh, but you can make like the edible fondue and then also have nugs.
Whoa. That person is not leaving the restaurant. You also need to like have a hotel situation.
Yeah.
But that's why you can like, have you ever seen like Action Bronson like microplane some nugs onto like hot pizza that comes out of the oven?
Oh, I haven't seen that. I watch this show sometimes though.
So like if you sprinkle like little bits of weed, that's what's happening is the hot cheese is like, it's called decarboxylation. It's decarbing the weed. So it's breaking off that.
But oil won't come out of that, right? Or like how does dab oil made again?
That I don't know. That's like,
I thought they like
science.
Squeeze
like olives.
Yeah, but that's not how it works.
I can't speak to that process.
I'd like to imagine like if you put it on, you know how like pizza's already greasy.
Yeah.
Like if it's super hot cheese, like the oil like secretes out of the nug
little
things.
I like to think of it that way. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. How did we get on top of this? How did we get on this topic?
I think we started off with me making money as a touring musician.
Oh, wait! Did you ever sell edibles?
I did sell edibles.
Oh, but legally or illegally or both? Maybe both. Maybe yes.
Weed just became legal in New York. So remember that like gray area whenever like weed had just become legal in Seattle?
Yeah.
And everyone was like rolling up because everybody, like city official, like cops and like this public were like, I don't really know. And so everyone would just kind of like smoke outside of bars.
Now there's just like people with aluminum foil outside my studio.
Damn.
Yeah, R.I.P. We just put that gate up. The gate I had to let you into.
Yeah.
That went up only like 2 or 3 months ago because like that stair underpass.
Okay.
That was a spot for a lot of drug heads.
Yeah. That would be. If I was in that situation, I would have chosen that stairwell. It's a nice.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So you may or may not have done. Got it.
May or may not have.
So you're like a rapper, basically.
I wouldn't go that far. I don't know how to rap.
Okay. My name is Puck. I got a lot of luck or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Got it. So with all that, are you still a touring pianist?
I am.
Okay.
I'm not currently on tour.
But that's like, so you just stick with the same artist at this point now? Or like, how do you know when you're on tour? You just, when someone drops an album? Or what?
That's definitely like, I've realized I did that, kind of like accidentally, when I was, building my career, because I was with SZA for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Last year I was touring and working with SZA and Maggie Rogers, but then also trying to do my own thing too as Puck. And now I realize that like, when you find an artist, you really want to kind of like ride with them for as long as possible. It probably would have been economically smart for me to stay with SZA, and I love the new album, and I love that tour, and I love her, and I miss that camp very much.
Yeah.
But I know that there was something inside myself, kind of almost on a spiritual level, where I needed to like see my own project through. I needed to, do the Thundercat or Herbie thing in the other half. They had the sideman thing. I've been a sideman. I needed to see my own thing through.
Got it.
And I've been building that, and it's been going well. I played Tree Fort. I played Seattle Night Market. I'm playing Capitol Hill Block Party. So
wait, did you hear about? I just reached out to. I don't have my phone. I just saw it today when I was driving to the studio. Mm-hmm. Have you heard about Thing Festival?
Yes.
And then Thundercat's like the headlining guy.
Yeah, that looks so cool.
I just reached out to Thing this morning.
Cool.
And they're going to work on seeing if they can get me a press pass. So
amazing. Oh, man, I hope you go. Yeah. I used to go to jazz camp out in Port Townsend growing up.
Where is Port Townsend? That's like...
It's, you know where Port Angeles is?
It's near Yakima, maybe? I don't know.
No, other way. So if this is Washington and Seattle's like right here.
Oh my gosh, is that what people do?
That's what I do.
That's pretty sick.
I did it for like a lot of New Yorkers. I haven't had to do it out here a lot, but
that's amazing though. Yeah. That's literally Washington.
Yeah, it's literally Washington. So Port Townsend was like right here. So you either got to drive around or take a ferry.
Is it near Bellingham? Or
No, Bellingham's up here. Like here's Canada. Bellingham's like.
Oh, so you have to go south and then up.
Yeah. You can either drive around, which takes how long?
Or you take the ferry, you're saying. But where do you take the ferry from?
That I don't remember.
Probably like...
I think my dad drove me.
Got it.
Or we took the ferry. I don't know. My dad was navigator.
Yeah. I guess I'd have to get an Airbnb if I go, though. Or wait.
It would be a brolic drive back after being at a festival all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I also have my own show.
Port Townsend is sick.
Yeah.
There's a dope pizza place on the waterfront.
Hell yeah. I had to figure that out because I'm doing my NAST... I'm doing my NAST live. My anniversary for the podcast is August 18th, but I'm
congratulations
doing a show on the 26th. I'm doing a NAST live, so it's like a live podcast with performing acts as well. But then the thing is 25th, 26th, 27th, or something like that.
The Thing?
I think so.
Okay. Or Thing.
Yeah.
It's such an awkward... I love how awkward that is to say.
Yeah, Thing.
Are you going to Thing?
Yeah, you're going to Thing.
Are you going to the Thing?
Yeah. So, but how... Can you ever just like DM people and be like, hey, can I be your touring pianist? Have you ever done that?
I have. I've definitely... All the festivals I've booked, I've got off of cold emailing.
Got it.
So I've been the internet detective, and I have a huge spreadsheet of like who the booking agent for each festival is. To various degrees of success. You can do that, and I definitely have recently because I've been out of work all year. I've been reaching back out to like all my contacts, being like, you know, whether it's a touring pianist being like, hey, if you have any work that's coming across your desk that you don't want, you know, put my name in the hat, to music directors, to other music business people, artist managers, even like artists that I'm friends with. And nothing is happened yet. So I'm definitely experiencing that cold spell, which is very unnerving, but also very eye-opening. Economically, I've been saying that word so much this interview, but it's really on my mind a lot right now. You know, I'm 32 and I'm like, okay, like I've had some big successes in music, and I have some like, you know, cool kid points in terms of like who I've played with and things that I've done, and I've released my own album, and I'm like really super proud of that. And
it's 40 minutes long. See, I know so many like little tab. It's like 40 minutes and something seconds. I forget how many seconds.
Damn, you're good. Yeah.
Maybe 58 seconds.
Something like that.
I think it's 40. I think it is 50 or 28. I think it ends in 8.
Holy shit. Do you have like a photographic memory?
No, I kind of dive into like a deep dive on my guests. Thanks. But then it sticks with me, you know. So I guess I don't know if it's photogenic versus like I realized I don't know anything about that's going to put me on the spot. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about geography like whatsoever. That's like just really bad. Hence. Yeah, I know this now.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I don't know like countries or continents. I couldn't name all the states. I could maybe, but I couldn't tell you on a map. Like I'm really like so.
You need a game. You need like there was this like internet game that became like randomly popular with all my friends and I in college, and we would like play it over social media, and it was like just maps, and it was like a race to figure out like to type all of the spaces. Anyway.
Yeah, like I know the Pacific North. Actually, I don't even know. Maybe I don't. I know.
Bet you do.
I know Oregon, California.
Boom. You know Idaho?
Maybe. I know what Idaho. I know states. Like if someone said, I would know it's a state. You couldn't trick me and be like, is Maine a state? I know Maine is a state. Yes.
It's the other Portland.
Yes. So I know that type of stuff. But like, so maybe just because I like music, it's not really like, maybe I have a photographic memory for music.
Yeah. You move towards what's important to you. Yeah.
And knowing states and politics isn't important yet for me, I guess. Maybe. I don't know.
To each their own.
To each their own. Got it. Fuck, what were we... I was going to bring that into something, but yes. So with all that, do you have a team at all? Like, do you have like a management or nothing? Wow.
No, it's been, and that's been the silver lining in all of this of like, you know, not touring right now and feeling all of the imposter syndrome feelings about that, you know. It's like, it's so crazy because like I'll say my resume to myself. I'll say like, yo, you played the Grammys, but I'll still be like, I'm a failure. I'm not a real musician because I'm not on tour. Yeah. But that is the silver lining in being at home in my childhood room. One of the many silver linings has been that's given me time to be the internet detective, to find all of the addresses, to be my own booking agent. It's giving me time to plug my own music and to lay that groundwork and that foundation so that when I do go back out on tour again, I'm not just kind of like telling people that I also make my own music. It has a place that it lives on the internet. I've played, you know, festivals under my own name as well. So that's something that plant can continue to grow. It's not just like a baby plant or a seed anymore. It's
like a nug.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And
that nug turns in. Wait, a nug does not turn into a marijuana leaf.
No, the nug is actually the flower.
Got it. Wait, so there's a flower on the leaf?
Yeah, the nug is a flower that has then been like kind of like dried and dehydrated. So the flower is what is going to like make the new seed. Hence
the flower. But is a marijuana flower like pretty when it's not?
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
It looks like a not like
and
a
so
rose. And
so alien looking. Okay. Like look at like High Times magazine covers from like 1998. Whew! Beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, we're really good at tangenting.
Yes, it's amazing. So with that, then how did you get this Capitol Hill Block Party show, or cool people say, Capitol Hill Block, CHBP?
Yeah.
I guess I'm not cool enough
from being the internet detective.
Got it.
No, you're cool. You're cool.
I try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deuces. That's what people say, I think.
Yes.
Word up.
Word. Literally just cold emailing. And you know, it's not just that, right? It's the fact that like I have my resume that I'm pulling from, and also that I invested in publicity for my record. I self-released my record. I had pitched it to a bunch of labels, but I decided for multiple reasons to self-release. And I took my touring money from Maggie, from Ms. Rogers, and used that for publicity, which then got me placement in various publications. 425 magazine, shout out, did a really nice profile of me.
Is that from Seattle or is it just 425?
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm guessing because 425 is 425 is north, right?
Yeah. I know the Renton area code is 425.
Really?
It might be. I know, and I also know it's Bellevue, so I think it kind of just
Bellevue
like extends. Too? Yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's the east side.
Then what's 206?
Definitely Seattle proper.
That's it?
Yeah, but now there's a new one because the 206 numbers are almost used up. So now we're getting a new area code.
What is it?
It's like 534 or something weird. I'm like
534. That's stupid. Yeah. Maybe. Does it jingle? Aren't all phone numbers supposed to jingle, or is that like a made up thing?
What do you mean?
Like your number is supposed to like, you're supposed to like rhyme it in your head.
What do you mean?
Like 911 or like, you know, like or
Why was the 911 jingle so pleasant? Like, 911,
yeah.
my leg is broken.
Yes. I think that's what it's supposed to be like. Like your phone number is supposed to be like a jingle, or is that it's just random numbes? I thought it's supposed to like jingle somehow.
I don't know. I've never heard this. I know it was like it was, I think it was started. This is what I heard. I don't know if I really know what I'm talking about. I know area codes were started in order to like be able to, for example, if someone in Nebraska had the same house phone number, like the blah 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 blah,
right?
Blah 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 blah. Yeah, blah 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 blah. If someone in Nebraska
10 numbers
to 7, it's 10 with the area code.
Got it.
So someone could have the same 7 numbers, and at a certain point in time, you would, like decades ago, you would call that and then accidentally get the Nebraska person instead of the Washington person. And so that's when area code numbers started.
That probably sucked for people who did like ransoms or something.
Ransoms?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
If you're like, I have your kid and we need this money, but then you call the wrong area, that would suck.
That would suck for so many reasons.
Yeah. 100%. That's cool though. I think that's cold. There's nothing wrong with cold calling at all. Like that's how you get things done, honestly.
Yeah.
Now you're here in Seattle, so you can like work on building up those connections and besides the ones you already have. And
it's been a lot. That's definitely the advantage of the Seattle music scene is like, Nashville, New York, LA, where all these huge labels and huge businesses happening. You're like, a fish in the sea. Whereas over here, I'm a little bit more of like a big fish. And having grown up here, it's like, I grew up here. Also, my resume is this thing. Also, I used my touring money to get this publicity. And look, this is me written up on NPR. Like, I'm real. I promise. I exist. And so all of those things together kind of sum to local festivals.
And what's your standard now after being on like different tours? Like, would you do like So Far Sounds or like?
Honestly, I did 3 So Far Sounds gigs last week.
Oh, nice. Heck yeah.
It's in terms of making money as a musician, So Far Sounds has been, because I've been out of work, right? So I've been teaching
like music
lessons, music theory lessons, online and in person. Hit me up. I've been teaching, I've been playing gigs, which hasn't been a lot of money. It's starting to be a little bit more, but the So Far Sounds have been bread and butter for me because it's like guaranteed audience, guaranteed pay.
You could do like 5 a month or something, right? At max?
I don't know.
I thought there was like a max you can do.
I don't know, but it's $100 so far, unless they have a bunch more tickets, then they give you more money, which is honestly like kind of light for the amount of work the artists are doing. But to be frank, I'm not getting the like 50 Amazon dudes to like come to my show at Sunset Tavern. Right. And then I would make more than $100. But like if I put the energy into like booking a show, putting a bill together, promoting it, carrying all my shit, doing the sound check, playing the show, posting on socials, like all of that, like
if you break down the hours of you're doing that, that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, but like also when I did play my show at Sunset Tavern in was that May? Yeah, I think it was the beginning of May or end of April. I didn't make any money. Versus so far I make $100 every time I do it. I made $300 last week from doing those 3 shows. Dang. And it's an audience that has never seen me before, and I always get like 7 or so Instagram follows. I think it really depends on the city that you're in, whether So Far is worth it, because in New York there's so much going on that not as many people might come out to a So Far show, and also it's really schleppy carrying that much gear on the train.
Schleppy?
Schleppy.
What does that mean?
Schleppy, like
shitty? Is that what schleppy?
Yeah, it's like shitty, but like you carrying a lot of stuff. Like you're really schlepping your shit around.
Got it. Okay.
Can you swear on this?
I think I just did.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah, New York is really schleppy. But you know, with the car here, and then also too, I think people in Seattle there's a community that's like really hungry to support local music, but doesn't really necessarily know how to.
Mm-hmm.
Versus New York, it's like there's so much nightlife, everything is going on all the time, and there are like major, like every single artist is going to tour through New York,
Mm-hmm.
whereas that might not be the case as much for Seattle.
Yeah.
So I think that the community of people coming to SoFars, they're like genuinely looking for the music scene or an interesting experience.
Yeah.
In a way that feels different than New York.
Yeah. Ooh, I wonder if you could like cold call artists that just announced their tour to Seattle, and then like have you done that before?
I've been doing that.
Okay.
I've been doing that. I haven't really had any success with it yet. Well, I have like a friend who's coming through, a friend from the New York scene who's like blowing up, who's coming through, who I might open for her.
Nice.
But yeah, I hope so. I keep hearing rumors about like, oh, I just put your name into this touring musician who's looking for an artist, or like, oh, like this other artist like really likes your album. I keep hearing lots of rumors, so I hope they.
Maybe you need like a booking agent.
Yes.
Instead, like you might need a booking agent before you need like a manager even.
Absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
I do need. That's a booking agent is the number one thing I need.
Yeah.
If you know any booking agents,
I don't
you
like
guys know any. If you're a booking agent, help.
I know Seattle booking agents, but I don't know if that's the same.
Yeah.
Need for.
Well, I would actually love to build. So
work with Saul. Like I had Seth MacDonald on the show, and he has a band called All Star Opera, and he's also Souls or Saul. On the podcast we discussed if it's Soul or Saul. Yeah, and you can call him either.
Because one is his birth name and one is his artist name, right?
Really?
That's
new information I'm learning now too. Oh. I heard people just couldn't pronounce his name, so he's okay with either. But one's his birth name?
That's what I heard last weekend.
But
maybe that's insider information.
So his birth name is Saul.
I don't know.
And he sells edibles.
Does he?
No.
Oh. We can't blow him up. I mean, musically, yes, but
he sells music edibles.
It makes my brain feel like that. His music is really good.
There we go.
Yeah.
But like Seth is his booking agent.
Oh.
But you said you also met another booking agent for him? Or who'd you say you met that works with Soul?
His music director. Andrew Imanaka, who's really dope.
He's from Seattle?
Yeah, he's from the south side of Seattle, and he grew up playing bass. He's an excellent bass player and music director, and he runs Playback. Are you familiar with Playback? It's like
when you restart a song?
Yeah. So like, you know how tours these days, there will be the background vocals from the records like playing along with the band. So there's a computer, usually it's Ableton, running background vocals. So you launch it and the band listens to it and plays with it. So it's all kind of like knitting together. So that's what Andrew does.
Got
for it. Soul/Saul. Man, maybe like one's like the evil version, one is like the nice version.
I also heard it had to do with solstice or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember why.
He played the solstice Seattle Night Market event.
Got it. That's how he got his name.
Maybe.
But I guess there are a few like booking agents in Seattle, but it's like very, I don't know.
I don't
know if it's too local or not.
A Seattle booking agent because
but there's probably like tiers of, right? I don't know.
Maybe. I think there are like booking agents that work specifically with venues, like you know, a booking agent at Madame Lou's who's going to do
like do you want to tour in Seattle, or do you want to tour like outside of Seattle, or like what are you trying to do?
Tour everywhere.
Got it. Yeah. So maybe you need to have like multiple.
Well, there are booking agents that are venue specific, and then there are booking agents that are like booking agents at what is that called? Like at an agency. At a booking agency.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And a lot of those people work remote or, you know, are in satellite cities. So for example, for publicity, I went with Terrorbird. I can't remember if they're based in New York or London or where they started, but Andy Wilson, they're really, really wonderful. They
Nice.
grew up, they're a Pacific Northwest kid, a Washington kid, that also lived in New York for a little while and came back. But an incredible like music business person and publicist. And I was really glad that they live here now. It was really nice working with someone that lives in Seattle, because I know inevitably as I continue to build this, I know my team will grow into having people in New York or in LA and possibly London, but like I want Seattleites on my team.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Maybe
I would love a Seattle booking agent. Oh,
maybe reach out to Seth then.
Okay.
Yeah, Seth McDonald.
That's a great tip. Does he play in Small Paul?
Yes.
Okay, I met him last weekend.
Yes, that's
nice.
probably why.
Yeah.
Was he at Solstice or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, he was playing with Small Paul, but then also
that's his
like
newer
vaguely there
project.
with Soul as well. Yeah.
Yeah. See, things are connecting.
Yeah.
A lot of things in Seattle are very interwoven. More
Super.
than you. Yeah. So.
That's what I've noticed is like, once you find like a couple people, then you find more people.
Yeah, and then like Seth worked with Macklemore's team from like 2012 until like a few years ago or something, like so like everything's like everything's very connected. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I bet Macklemore's rise helped not just like, you know, artist visibility, but it probably helped music industry infrastructure in Seattle, where it's like, you know, I
feel like that's a mixed bag. Some people think his rise like messed up Seattle stuff. Some people think it helped. It's a very mixed bag. Definitely. And I think it also depends on like how successful you and your friends became during that time, or if you didn't, you know. So it's all relative. I don't know. I think it's cool. I think Macklemore's a nice guy. I think he's a nice guy. I think his family's nice. Yeah. But with that, I think we covered everything that I'd liked to cover.
Cool.
Is there anything else you want to cover?
I talked about, you know, the inner workings of the music industry and making money, which was important to me. Mm-hmm. It's really important to me that like, I guess I really want, you know, we're a city that's so like tech driven. So there aren't a lot of like people's parents that work in the entertainment industry in Seattle. So it's really important to me that like kids know that it's possible to have a music career. Yeah. That you can like just take every opportunity that you can, that you see, even if you don't really see the way it's going to sum to what you're envisioning. Like if your high school has a jazz band, go play in jazz band, because you're going to learn how to like play in an ensemble, read music in a certain way. You're going to learn music theory in a certain way that's going to apply to so many different genres of music. Things like that, or like if you're trying to break into the touring scene but aren't really sure how, maybe work at your local theater. If you have a local theater that's like putting on plays and musicals, you're going to learn like maybe sound engineering there. That's a kind of backdoor way in. So, you know, things like that are really important to me. That's why I was candid about like the money I'm making and not making right now. And I'm so thankful that you talked a little bit about that too, with like, here are my 8 small businesses and like the way it's all fitting together. Other than that, I don't know. Do you have any questions about the album specifically that I made, or
why on Veterans Day?
On Veterans Day?
Yeah,
it's November 11th, Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I did 11. Well, I did it because of 11/11. Okay. But also that's 6 months. I was born on May 11th.
Okay.
So
you just had your
like
birthday then, like 2 months ago.
I did.
Happy late birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I enjoyed the album. I liked. I like saw the credits. You had like a Grammy nominated or award-winning producer or
Grammy award-winning mastering engineer.
Mastering engineer.
Mike Bosey mastered all of Kendrick's records and SZA's records.
And did you meet him through Like working with SZA, or how did that come to be?
I've never met him. We worked remotely, but I cold called him, and that door was able to open for me because of my resume. I did the cold call, and they're like, "This is who I am. I would love to work with you."
So like, what's the next? Are you looking, when it comes to like building community? Are you looking to like collaborate? Because you've only done like one on Spotify, at least, like one collaboration. Like, do you like want to like collaborate with like producers or other artists, or like what is like your goal when it comes to like building community, and what does that look like for you?
Whoa. You mean in Seattle, or like
just in general with like your solo act?
I would love to do more collaborations. I've been producing for other people, so.
Oh, nice. You're a producer?
Yeah.
That's dope. What?
Thanks. I executive produced my whole record. But I recently produced with Joy Postal. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's really cool. She's from Baltimore, nice. Living in New York, and she's dropping a project that I produced on with a team. So I would love to do more production and songwriting. With Puck, I would love to collaborate more. I get very hesitant. I get very cautious because I feel like there is a sort of stereotype that like women or femmes tend to just be singers. And so in the past, sometimes like people have asked me to collaborate with them, and I would show up to the session thinking they would want me to like play keys, which is like my big strength. Or would need help with production or something, and I get there and it's like, oh, like we thought we could make a Puck song today, and it's like, no, that's like a specific sound and a very kind of like, that's my heart, you know.
Yeah.
And so I feel very protective about that. I definitely like have some dear friends and collaborators that I trust that I work with, and I'm trying to kind of like loosen my grip because from the process of making the album, I see where like, you know, being more open and allowing like other people's ideas and influences would only strengthen the music itself. So that's something that I'm open to, but it has to be the right situation.
Yeah.
But I would love to definitely continue to make music with a lot of other people and see where that leads. But I guess, you know, going into it in a more musical or cultural way rather than a business way of like, all right, we're going to do this and you're going to feature on it and we're going to release it like this. You know, I would rather, you know, eat an edible and play some piano and see what happens.
Yeah. So like your goal would be for people to like be like, I'm looking for a pianist, or you don't want it to, or is that too like boxed in though?
Maybe that's too boxed in, like pianist or producer or songwriter, or
but just see where it
being
goes.
Like a singer on something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just say you want to collaborate with an artist and not like have expectations. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's fair.
Like you know those like actor on actor interviews, or like those actor roundtable things that always pop up, something like that, where it's like a meeting of the minds and it's let's see what happens.
I thought of like when you said that though, for whatever reason, I was thinking of like when people read Google searches about them. I don't know, that's just completely different. But you know those actor like things, or like an actor and a supporting actor will like be like, this is what Google has to say about it. But I know what you're saying too. But for whatever reason, that's what I first thought. But
yeah, not that. Less computer.
Yes. No, that makes sense. I think Seattle is kind of that place though, a little bit, where like artists really just want to like connect and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
that seems to be what it is in general, until like a businessman gets involved.
Got it.
That's when once money gets involved, that's when that's when the art starts changing. I understand why money's involved. Money needs to be involved because I need some money. Yeah. We all
need to be able to buy your edibles.
Exactly.
Or buy the ingredients to make your edibles.
Exactly.
Got it. So
I never told people how to make weed butter.
Oh shit. Yeah, quickly. Anyway, before that, we'll end on that But and I end by usually saying what's like some final advice, but you've already given like some amazing advice. So before my final question would be like, besides that one we're about to ask, how'd you meet Vox Rare? How did that come to be?
Oh, they listened to the Tree Fort playlist of all the artists, and they hit me up. They reached out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm so sad that I didn't get to meet them or play the show.
They're so cool.
They seem awesome, and I was really excited. I planned this like little Pacific Northwest tour of like it was Boise, Portland, and Seattle, and yeah, I got COVID.
Damn.
Yeah, it was my first time getting COVID. I probably deserved it.
How'd you get it?
From Tree Fort.
Ah, dang.
Yeah. I had been in my brain. I was like kind of cocky about it. I was like, my hygiene is so good that I still haven't gotten COVID, and then I got COVID.
Damn, you got humbled by the vid.
I did. Rightfully so.
So let's before you give the how do you make the last thing I want to say actually is how can people find you?
Okay.
On social media or wherever? How can they reach out to you?
Puck for Good Luck everywhere.
Cool.
So you can find me on all socials. I'm not great at Twitter or TikTok. Twitter is like slightly too Gen X for me, and TikTok is slightly too Gen Z. And Instagram, it's perfect. I'm on there too much.
And they're verified, so that's kind of cool. There's some cool points there.
What'd you say?
You're verified, right? So you got.
No, I'm not actually.
What? I thought you were.
What? I don't have a blue check.
I thought you did.
But I thought you could buy the blue check now.
Yeah. So it doesn't even matter. But the tip is like you can check when people, if you click on their profile, it'll show when they became verified.
Really?
So if people are verified after March 2023,
you
know they've bought their verification. I could have sworn you're verified. I thought I looked today and you're verified.
Really?
I don't have my phone. What? I could have sworn.
That would be sick. News to me.
Really?
I tried to, because like before you could buy it, you would have to like do a whole
request.
You would have to submit your driver's license, which was like weird.
Yeah, for me they had me send my like credit card information. No, I was kidding.
Are you okay?
Yeah, my social security number.
No, I submitted it, and it was like kind of right after dropping my album, I think, that I tried again, and I was like, oh, with all this press this will work, but they were like, no.
I could have sworn maybe.
I feel like I should be. I feel like I have enough cool kid points.
Yeah, I think so. Weird. But anyways, let's end the episode by you explaining how to make your butter, and also what your 3 favorite things to make with it is. Or is it only chocolate chip cookies?
Some other. I think I've made some oatmeal before.
Oatmeal? Just oatmeal?
No. Oh, well, I actually have put butter, like weed butter, on top of oatmeal in the morning time.
What about like toast?
I've done it on toast. Yeah.
Muffins?
I've done it on pasta. Like finish some pasta with like, a little bit of butter, and then put like some nice Parmesan cheese on top, and then get really stoned from the pasta. Yeah, that's pretty dope.
Hell yeah.
I really want to make like some shortbread cookies, but I want to take the weed butter and mix it with like, I've got this ingredient pairing in my brain, but like, it might sound weird, but like a lime zest and miso. I'm like, that might be an interesting like.
What does miso taste outside of soup? I only know what it tastes like in soup.
Kind of like that, like salty and almost is like a little like caramelly.
Is it a spice? What is it? What is miso?
Miso, it's a paste. It's like a fermented soybean, I think.
But when you're having miso soup, it's just soup with tofu in it. So is it like it's like dissolved?
Yeah. They put the paste in the water or in the broth.
Got it. And you can make like a miso cookies then if it's paste. Is it good?
Yeah. So I want to take the butter. I've made miso lime butter before, which is it's great. It's sick. But I want to do that as edible butter, and then make shortbread cookies with it, because shortbread, the main like flavor of it is like the butter. So I'm like, oh, let me feature this flavor profile of like
very nice
cannabis, miso, lime, very fancy,
amazing.
But how you make weed butter, you take a pot, fill it with water, and then stick another pot on top, or like a metal bowl that will kind of nest in without touching the bottom. And that's where you're going to put your butter and your weed. And the most important thing is to check every once in a while that you still have water in the bottom of your bottom pot, else you're going to have problems. But it's a way to gently melt the butter and infuse it with weed without burning it. So what you want to do is get your water to boil and then pull it down to simmer. Put the second pot or bowl on top and melt your butter and your weed, and you want to stir it, and you want to like check on it. You want to do this for like, an hour or two until the butter has turned a nice like golden brown or almost green. And then it's like infused.
Very nice.
And then you strain out your weed, and then you have weed butter to use for any purpose you desire. You can also do this with coconut oil if you're vegan. And that you can just take a jar of coconut oil, stick 1/8 of weed in it, close the top, and then put it inside the pot of water. Cover the water up, pretty far along the coconut oil jar just to like heat the oil. It might make a lot of noise. It might rattle as the water is simmering, and it's definitely something you want to be in the room for. It's perfect if you're a freelancer doing emails. You can just sit there doing your emails in the kitchen, making your weed coconut oil. But that's how you make edibles.
Oh yeah, we're making that a clip for sure. That's amazing. I already have an idea for that.
Hell yeah,
that's great. Yeah, that sounds amazing. So do you cook a lot too? Then I'm guessing.
I do like cooking a lot.
Wait, so what do you if you have edibles every day, what do you usually make? Is it cookies or what do you
usually cookies, yeah. Because I know my dose with the cookie. And also I believe in having cookie dough on deck, like whether it's like edible or not. Like I usually when I make cookies I double the recipe and then I roll them in. I'll cook some to have, but then I'll roll logs of cookie dough and freeze it so that whenever I want a cookie I can just slice and bake. And that works really incredibly with edibles.
But then can you make edible cookie dough, or would that not work because it's not heated up?
Oh, like can I just eat the cookie dough that has the weed butter in it without heating it?
Yeah. Oh, that would work.
Yeah,
because it's already the weed butter.
Because it's already the weed butter. Because you've already decarbed the weed in the butter through the heating process.
Nice. That's amazing. Okay, hell yeah.
This is why I was fired from the weed job. Because I would sit here explaining this to every customer, making sure they were living their best life.
Hell yeah. We've gone on a full journey. Do you have, besides that, do you have any final words for the people out there?
Oh, final words.
Or final word. Either one.
Amethyst.
And we did it. This is the NAST podcast with
Puck.
And we did it. There we go.